you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 25th Ahrb meeting. We have quite a few things on the agenda tonight. However, the first item, 12 Livingston Avenue, the Russell Corrales residence.
Would you mind speaking up?
Sure. The first item on the agenda is 12 Livingston Avenue. We did not receive any drawings from them. Is that correct, Ed?
Correct. They said they should be in for the next meeting.
Okay, we will, I'll make a motion, we continue that to the next application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dale seconds. Unanimous. Next item is 2 Ahrb Avenue, please.
Good evening, Pat Steinschneider from Gotham Design and Community Development. Would you like me to go to the slides and stuff? I mean, do you have an agenda, or do you want me to just go to the stuff?
Well, we got a lot of drawings from you.
Yeah.
There were a few questions that came up at the last hearing, things that we thought could potentially add value or mitigate some of the repercussions from the state's requests and some of the changes that we hadn't seen. I see some of those are in some of the drawings. Some of them are in other drawings. Maybe we should understand what you found out. I've also, since the last hearing, I've spoken to the previous 2 chairmen of the Ahrb to understand a little more clearly what was the motivation for approving the plan as it was approved and what kind of questions were critical at the time. And I think now I have a better understanding of what their intentions were, what everyone's intentions were. So the goal tonight being to get as close to that original approved intent as we can, given what differences in the built product is and what we could potentially alter to get it to be,
Although you guys
close
have made some suggestions which are different than those.
We have.
Which I think are fine.
We have, and we
have
should.
the authority to do
Yeah, we should talk about those.
Yeah.
But I think, at least from my perspective, I would like to bring it as close as possible to that original approval. So go ahead, go through your presentation and help us understand why we have the different drawings we have.
Yeah. So this sheet, this was the set of drawings that we submitted to you initially, which was 32916. This had no modifications to it. This was the one basically from what we had ended up with the changes that were made. We submitted that. There were a series of recommendations that were made at the last meeting. One was that we consider cutting the height of the mansard by 1.5 feet to bring that down. We are concerned that we might have to have a railing, which I think we would do if we still have the stairs and everything. So the idea was, this is what it looks like with the railing. I'll go really quickly through some of the changes that were made, recommended. This is a fairly significant change. This corner, eliminating the mansard in the corner, so that this corner looks similar to this corner. That was something that you asked us specifically to take a look at doing. So
I did, and mostly it had to do with how the detail had changed.
Right.
Initially there was a setback for that step in the volume, and then it came out as what you described as a construction methodology change between the 2 types of building, the stick-built versus the prefabricated. And so, I think that was a way to try to get closer to this geometric volume.
right.
I'm not sure if we got that or not. I think we should talk about that, about
Yeah.
what's stronger.
And when I go through all this, I covered all those different things. So that's a fairly significant change. Cutting this, doing this. The request was the 2 doors. Going back to that. Which, the reason, I did research it, the reason we had shown the 1 door is we thought we were gonna need a post, because we have a beam coming across, but the structural engineer was able to do that with a steel beam coming across that comes into, so we can do the 2 doors. this was, I think, Ahr's suggestion that we give thought to the idea of wrapping the mansard around the stairs so that you don't feel the height of the stair. It comes up, you've got the cornice line going around, and so this shows that. I think that's pretty much
That's this.
what we were asked to do. This is exactly that same drawing with the railings removed. I think if we were able to reduce the height of the mansard and not put the railings on, I think that's a gain. But I think cutting it and putting the railings on, I don't think that, makes an improvement really to it. This, I think, would make sense, but I think we need to find out whether we're allowed to do that. This one was, because I've been admonished before of not showing what we would like. So what we did is we said, these are the changes that we think, following from the discussions that we have, that made sense. It has this corner, eliminating that mansard. It has the two doors. It doesn't have this wrapping around, because I think that actually makes it look a little bit clumsy. And it doesn't cut the mansard. It leaves the mansard as it is, which we can talk about a little bit more in a minute. One thing that we showed on here, one of the concerns that was expressed before, was that the massing across here had changed dramatically, because this went from being 22 feet wide to 16 feet. And that part of the reason for having that was to not have as large a field of stucco. So I would change this detail from what we've drawn, but I can the idea was this is brick, this could also be brick, so the piece of this that's stucco would be actually a little bit narrower than what it was before, but the same idea of the 5 windows in the stucco mass. The thing I would change in the way we've drawn it is I would eliminate the stone here. I'd keep those stones coming around the base, and what I would do is do this all brick from that up. So you'd have the brick on top of the stone with a piece that cuts out, the brick coming down on top of that, and then the stucco, which I think is a way of balancing between those proportions of stucco and brick.
There was one other component to that, to the problem of that, the west elevation and also the rear, which is the south elevation.
Yeah.
And that is that the mansard roof on the 4th floor had moved significantly, both in that side elevation, the one you see when you're coming down Broadway and where it turns into Ahrb, on the west and again at the back. And so, in this attempt to get as close to the original intent as possible, those are still two issues that come into play significantly in our attempt to reduce the impact of the enlarged volume of the building.
Yeah, I mean, the intent was to have the corner eroded, which I think, I agree needs to change. I know there are a lot of different ways of looking at these things. We've done a lot of modulars. Modulars can come a certain width. We can't do a modular that is larger than 15'9" in width. So this proportion was based directly.
I remember that. I understand that constraint.
And this
but the roof,
this posts up, coming down here, and we actually have the beam carrying that down below. So the idea was this is where the weight bearing wanted to be on it. We could have cut it back further to another point, but I'm not sure that would have been, I don't know.
But the roof box is different than those than the middle two, right? In that it's bearing much less load on it, on the top surface.
We have the whole roof
So
and the load of the 4th floor coming down on this and coming down on that. And those, the way it's framed, that carries all the way down.
It could have been picked up on a beam though, right?
It is picked up on the beam.
So then that line could be, moved. No?
This one could have been moved.
It doesn't have to be on the post.
This one pretty much was limited by the width of the box. This one, this could have moved, this could have cut back.
Exactly.
We could have.
There was no
moved it.
reason to have changed that from what I understand. I mean, I don't see the rationale for that.
It was the
What
structure.
it does, the way I see it, is
Yeah.
gives you extra volume.
It does. There's no, I think we represented that when we first came in, that did increase the volume here. The dimensional difference of it is still relative, it's not like we are twice the size of something.
And then
It's-
not only that, on this document, it doesn't reflect that fourth floor, whatever.
Yeah, we were on that document, which I have in here, we can get to that.
Okay.
That was specifically what we were asked to do for the issue of site plan. Did we change the footprint of the building? And so what we did is we specifically detailed what that was. Obviously, if it was a point of concern, we could do the same thing on the fourth floor. But, I mean, I don't know if it's necessary, because I'm not claiming we didn't get more volume. You know, this basically moved several feet this way, and this moved 5'9" towards the corner. So this is now 16.3 out to out, and it was 22 feet. So you've got, this is 5'9" difference, which is, you know, why this used to have more windows in it, and now there's only 3 there, and then there's 2 there. But what I'm suggesting with the idea of this brick portion of it is something that would also, I mean, that was one of the concerns that was also expressed in your last meeting. It may have been by, you know, somebody speaking at the mic, but the idea of how much there was of brick and how much there was of stucco. So here's where we put those sheets together for you, showing, you know, basically, this is the elevation that was approved November 26, 2012. This is what was revised and submitted to the state on October 27, 2015. The major difference there is the width of this versus the width of that, and the fact that the mansards before set in, whereas the mansards now sit out. Both are, if you will, historically consistent. In fact, I have a detail in here from, you know, Kidder's book showing, you know, what the framing of that is. This method is exactly how the house that we renovated at corner of Clinton and Broadway, Wits End, that's how it's framed. So it's you know, the idea that it's somehow different than what would have been appropriate is maybe different than what people preferred, but I don't think it's a matter of appropriateness in terms of historical detail. This is the side towards the bank. This shows the mansard wrapping around. You know, again, the same thing. This is what was approved. This is what we got approved by the state. This is what we talked about at the last meeting, the changes, and this is what we're proposing, you know, for that, eliminating that mansard at the lower level so that that wraps around differently, but, you know, that's up to you guys and whether you want to look at that. This is the drawing that we were just talking about. With the, you know, the footprints stayed the exact same square footage. Here's that 5'9". You know, before it stuck out 1'4", 5'9" coming across, so that's been eliminated, making this 16.3 instead of the 22 feet. This shows those changes on the corner, which, you know, this moved over a little bit, but it's relatively the same size as the entrance was. These proportions changed slightly because of the narrowing of that, but these lines here are all consistent with what they were before. This, I'm not even sure how that got 6 inches bigger, because it doesn't, you know, we went through, I was trying to find if there was a reason. It might have been that they made the stairs bigger, and that's how they did it, but we still did everything within the footprint that was approved. This is that drawing that shows, this is how we originally got it approved. This is when we were doing a masonry and steel structure. We were building masonry walls set in with furring that came in, so this would be detailing that would be consistent with, say, the Historical Society, where the edge of the mansard sets back in from the face of the brick. This is the detail that was done where the structure stacks up, it posts up, so the mansard sticks out. This cornice and this cornice are the exact same size, so it's not that we're projecting out further for this, it's just that the detailing has changed. And if we look at Kidder's detailing of it, from the late 1800s. This is probably more consistent with our original, the way we're doing it, and this is more along the lines of what we're ending up with now. There is mass coming out over the cornice, so that the mansard, that mass is more pronounced and has more of a sense of volume. The only other thing here, this wasn't something you asked us to do, but we're in the process right now of doing the details with the shop drawings are being done by the fabricator for the stone. So here's where we're at, just with the entrance, which has added a little bit of detail that we didn't have before. That made the height of this glass panel slightly smaller to have a stone surround on the flat. This is recessed back in 3 feet, so the doors swing out, don't come out of the sidewalk. And then we've got a tooled piece, it's actually a cast piece, but it was selling to be tooled, that wraps around and frames that. And then in the stone above the entrance is the 2 Ashford Avenue is a relief, for the address of it. And everything I have after that is stuff that you've seen before, but if you need to see any of the photographs, we can go through that stuff.
So in your preferred proposed plan, you don't want to cut the mansard roof down?
Well,
That's how you've shown it in the plan?
right now, what we've got is we were approved for a 36-inch high parapet. And we're ending up with, I think, 37 and a half. We're asking them as a question.
After the insulation goes on the roof?
Right, so what we're ending up with is where you've got the structure, you've got the insulation that goes on to create the pitch. So we'll have 37 and a half inches to what we have now, which my understanding is that that's adequate. It doesn't need any railing above it. And required. So we could cut that down, but I think if we cut that down, we need to then provide the railing. And my concern is the railing, I think, becomes another thing, which I think, as much as it's, well, you can look through the railing so it doesn't feel as bad, I think it's gonna be a strong attention grabber. That's gonna make you have another thing on top of the building. I think if the mansard is installed and the metal work is done nicely, I think it'll look better to not have that. If there's a desire to give more articulation at the top of that, because if you go back, if you look at Kidder's details, they always, of course, have this flare at that edge, which is something we could do, which could give you a way of topping it. And that would, your length of your panel would be shorter.
My concern was with the overall bulk and the relative proportions of roof to building.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that this small detail addresses that. What addresses it is the almost 2 feet that you take off in this drawing. And this is the drawing shown without a railing. So my question to you, and this is an important one, is how do you achieve this massing without the railing? Because now what you're showing us is a building that is closer in line to the one
Almost
that was
exactly.
approved.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very important thing to achieve on this site. And so, how do you get here? What is it that you have to do to make this happen?
That's over my pay grade, I don't really know. I mean, we can cut the mansard down, which is why we've shown the drawing. My concern is, we could set up a interior railing and say, no one's supposed to go past that.
Fine,
But-
what's wrong with that?
I think it's a difficult thing to police, and you get people up on a roof and.
People can climb over railings, I mean, people can climb over parapets. It happens all the time.
Yeah,
I don't, I'm only here, I don't know the specifics of it, I don't know what
Right.
what sort of hurdles are required. And in a way, I'm not, that's not the primary question for me tonight. The primary question is that I'm seeing a building that has, more integrity, and I want to see this one built
Yeah.
on the corner of Ahrb Avenue. So, I think it's a very critical thing for you to answer that, how do you get here?
I think it's that we would rely upon having a railing set interior on the roof, and people, if they came up on the roof, would be intelligent and not go past it. I mean, there's a vulnerability in all of that. I mean, luckily, I'm not the one who's in line on this, but, the people, I don't think there's a violation of the code at that point.
Can you mount the railing on the inside of the
Yes.
parapet wall on an angle so that it's not seen, but yet provides safety?
A single pipe that is,
I think if we do something, I think we have to make it meet code.
I think the key is a setback from the
From the
roof
edge.
line, because,
Right.
and this is how I deal with these kinds of things on penthouse rooftops all the time, where it's a non-accessible part of the roof, but it is visible from a terrace.
Right.
And the idea is to set it back so I can do an inexpensive railing, not have to pay for a
Yeah.
$500 linear foot, stainless steel and glass one. I can do a painted metal one, and it's $100 a linear foot. And I do this
I like
I do
the
this
glass
from
ones, but
time to
the stainless
time.
steel
No, I do,
Yeah.
this comes up all the
Yeah.
time, or not, regularly with those kinds of problems. And so the solution is to set it back 6, 8, 10 feet, whatever is required to mitigate the view angle. Now, we know that coming down Ashford Avenue,
And Broadway.
and mostly Ashford Avenue, because Broadway's got there's a lot of wire, you can't see so well.
Ours can all be underground.
Really coming down Ashford, and maybe I think about this because I walk down that rather
Yeah.
than, but I can see the roof of Walgreens, and you would be able to see some portion of that, but I
If it
think
was set in, you would definitely be less
you
noticeable.
see a little something, you
Yeah.
could paint it a dark matte gray, and whatever, so you see it a little bit coming down the hill, but what matters is that when you're standing on the corner, or you're on that, in that gateway, that the building is better scaled,
Okay.
better proportion. So I think if that is the solution, then it's a sensible one, and I think we can get closer to this drawing, which,
Building department's comfortable?
Yep, after we see the drawing, yeah.
Okay.
so let's take a look at a roof plan, setback.
Yeah, I'm sure we
Do a
can
view
do that.
study, and do a section study and see how many feet you have to set back in order to get it right. I don't
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
say
once
it's gonna be
we're-
5 to 10 feet, or I don't know what other equipment is up there.
Well, I was gonna say we can put the equipment on the outside of the railing, but we can't do that because we
No,
have to be
you-
15 feet from the edge.
And you
So
need service
we can take an area that's for the equipment, but set the railing in. I'm sure we'd be able to make that work. I mean, I don't, doing it that way, I think that would, I'm still nervous about it, but again, I'm not the one who's, in line on it, so.
But maybe if it's set back, you can even point it up a little higher, it won't be visible from the edge.
Well, you can
Then you
definitely
would
do a
just-
42
you
inch.
would just
A
do your
42 inch,
standard.
Yeah.
that's a pretty, clear indication, you're not supposed to go on the other side of it. You're right, if somebody, it's like the argument they're having in Hastings, where they felt that they had to put the fence on the bridge. It's like you're not supposed to, be unsafe near the edge of the bridge, but the concrete they had was probably fine. If somebody wants to climb over something and they want to do something they're not supposed to do, it's really hard to prevent that from happening. So the idea, if we do a 42-inch railing that's set back, what we can do is just do enough of a study. I don't think there's ever an issue of seeing this from the street. If you're in the neighborhood on Broadway, Walgrove, that area, you're not gonna see the railing.
Well, I get it, this to me is too aggressive a presence for the railing.
Right,
And so this is in your north elevation on, one of the sheets.
yeah.
Revisions requested by us on the 11th. So this I find problematic.
Agreed.
Um,
My reason for showing the other one.
Yeah, it's
It's
too dense, it's too close to the edge, it's too present an element for, and it's just wrong. So if you're stepping back and you're never seeing it like this,
I think that would work fine. I think a 42-inch steel, painted steel or aluminum railing. It can have a triangular piece that gives it stability. You know, every post or every other post, something like that. And we probably do vertical balusters in it, and we could, you know, I mean, if we can get past all the other stuff so we can be working on the details of stuff, you know, in construction, we can always come back in and show you the fence and have you guys
Okay.
say yes or no on the detailing of the railing.
Fine, good. So that is one major issue. We had 4 or so at the last meeting that we talked, we went through 4 or 5. I think that's the right direction for this. The next one I wanna go over is this issue, of this, the left side of the north elevation, and I'd really like the other board members to weigh in on their opinions.
Yeah.
We have really two, given what we have as a construction method, the approved section of mansard here is no longer set back. It's either proud or, as I think EIR and myself discussed at the last hearing, it disappears entirely and we just brick over that whole second story. I'd like to hear what you two think about this.
I have a question to ask you. Since you are going to be amending the mansard, right? How much of it would you need, since that part of it now is gonna be gone?
Right. Well, what they would do right now is,
Construction-wise, how much of this do you need to?
no, if you were, what we would do, if you look at your drawing, you see where the angle brace coming back in? What we would do is we would just cut the mansard off above that.
And then leave that portion?
Yeah, there'd be no need to change the framing and the rest of it.
Kind of coming in like this with your coping.
Right, so what we would do is we'd cut that, we would then put a brace piece across, and then put probably two by whatever widths it has to be on top of it, so we've got a solid capping. And then we wouldn't have to take apart anything else.
I was hoping that you could.
You know, it doesn't stick out very far, I mean,
It does. It's nothing like those details that you showed me. In each one of those details, you know, it's much further back. It's not like this.
Well-
This is almost like a strip mall, you know, where they stick the,
it's small, and doesn't have the detail, no doubt about it. I mean, the one, obviously, Kidder's detail has a beautiful curve to it, so.
that would be nice.
That would be very nice.
Very nice.
I mean, I can take that under advisement. I think asking Bruno to cut off the 1'6" is gonna be a job. He and I've talked enough about it. His first reaction was like, that's insane. I said, not really that tough. You know, if I get a demolition saw, I can probably set up a guide on both sides and just follow that and just take that right off. And then I can put the framing that I need inside of it to hold things together, and then put another piece on top. And you know, the integrity of it, it's nailed into the face of the building. So anything I'm coming up above the roof is, I think, you know, able to be done. I think it's good to keep it that we're not going below that angle, just because that's already kind of integral to the way they put this together. Trying to keep it practical too.
If you can think about it and come back with
Yeah.
something that,
But Michael has moved on to the north corner. And he's asking for opinions on it. And that is really whichever way you want it to be. We can do the mansard wrapping around. It's obviously different than what was approved because it projects out. The brick continuing up is, I think, I'm comfortable with that because it's consistent with the other corner where we've notched. So that seems like it makes sense, and of course that reduces that massing so there is no gain from that mansard sticking out. I mean, just so that everyone's aware, we're not getting anything, there's no volume in the mansard that we're getting for the building. So that's all just dead space on the outside. So cutting that, not cutting it, doesn't change anything else in the building.
The color of the mansard is charcoal.
It's a, forget what it's actually called, it's like a turned green, but it's not really green, it's not that awful A and P.
It's funny, it's darker than the brick, it'd be heavier than the mansard.
It's not a dark
It's
color.
better.
I prefer seeing a little more, but this is closer to what, I'm trying to stick to kind of, approved intent.
That was the original color. I mean, the part of the advantage of the lighter is that it doesn't seem massive and heavy.
I think the brick's cleaner. This is,
You wanna see it with the brick? Oh, the brick is
I
nice.
think the brick is a better solution. It holds it together.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion too. I think we all agree that even though this does depart a little bit from the 2010 or 12 approval, I think the scheme that you're showing in the sheet A310 revisions as requested by Ahrb for the north elevation is preferred by us.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm treating this like we have to get an approval from the ARB right now, so
I understand.
you get to do that.
All right, that's the second issue. The third issue, which is, I'm gonna try to find the right drawing, which is, it's right here. So here we, again, Patty, A310 revisions as requested, where the mansard wraps, and we do this, the stair tower and mansard are
Yeah.
the same material. I believe it's stronger to revert to the original, which is to maintain the, I'm gonna try to find the drawing where I had that.
Proposed by applicant, this piece.
Yes, proposed by applicant for 1916 sheet.
Yeah.
Which is this drawing.
So we're not wrapping the mansard.
No, unless
Yeah.
unless you
I agree.
have other comments. It's this 50 versus this, which is, I think, a little, you have a preference? Okay, so I think we're in agreement also about the brick continuing up the stair tower, better resolution for the window, and let's go along to the back, south elevation. So here, Patty, we have two issues. The first one, which I think is resolved well in what you proposed for today's meeting, which is pulling the brick over to the north, reducing the amount of stucco, increasing the amount of brick and stone, which again helps sort of break up that big expanse of stucco that we previously had. We did, however, I remember discussed at the last meeting, carrying the stone across the base up to the dividing line where you're now showing it looks like maybe some trim piece.
Right.
I'm not sure what happened with that.
Oh, yeah, because what I heard was bringing the stone across the base. So I kept the stone coming across on the base. This became stucco then. So you're saying keep this to stone?
Yes,
Yes.
that was what I understood my comment to be at the
Okay.
last meeting.
At that point, if we keep this to stone, then we bring the stone to there, and the brick would be above it on that side. I think that would probably work out fine.
I'm not following. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, in other words, if this is all the stone up to that line, we would have the stone come to that same line. There's no reason to have a sign panel on that side. You know, that doesn't make sense to me. So if we kept that.
I would be fine with that. They're not in this, those two are not in the same plane. I think it could work either way.
Well, this is set back to 1'4", So it's on the face of the same wall that has stucco on it.
So the wall, the stucco and the brick are at the same elevation, so you're saying, they're flush with each other?
No, the brick will
Brick
stick
is
out
face.
like 4 inches. You know, basically you've got we have about a 1.5 inch airspace, and then we've got the brick, so by the time we put the stucco in, we'll return the brick so we can stucco to the brick, so there's no dumb, detail. But what we would do is this would stick out 1 foot, basically 1'4" from this would stick out 4 inches from that. We'd have the stone carry the cornice line, or this trim line, and then we do the brick above that, and then that ties together, I think, fairly well.
Why not just carry that line above the signage all the way around?
This one?
Yeah, why not just carry that right underneath the window?
I think that does make it feel much heavier. I think this is supposed to be like the park, not that it's a back, because I don't believe in backs of buildings, but having there be something that feels like it's the Walgrove and Ashford facade, and then you turn the corner and you come back, and then there's something sets in and is a little bit different. I think that's nicer. I think if we go to the underside of these windows with the stone, it just seems like it's one big thing. Part of the idea, which I don't know if Fred talked about, was that we were trying to make this feel like it was pieces of buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think, this actually carrying this across, having that be stone and having this be the brick, I think then you've got the 3 elements on the back, which works out pretty good.
I just think that trim piece on the stucco,
Yeah.
running into the other stone is odd.
Well, no, at this
Doesn't
point, that would
resolve
be
itself.
stone. If we bring the
Right.
stone across underneath, that whole, that trim piece is stone and everything below is stone, having that come across, because it's hitting, you're sticking out 1'4", so you're dead ending into the side. It's not like you've got 2 things that don't, resolve themselves. And I think, having that be something that feels like it's a different scale, I think is, this is the garbage door, the utility doors, having that be something that steps down in significance. It's like, we treated the entrance to the apartments as much more detailing than the other things too. It's like, creating a hierarchy on the building so you kind of get your cues.
Do you have a thing about this?
I thought that's what we had agreed the last time.
To bring all the way up?
No, to drop it down this way.
Yeah, we did do that, but then Patty added this brick area, which kind of, I have some of Dale's concerns, which are that in an attempt to accommodate some of these issues and to work, for you to work with us and vice versa, we end up with a couple of funny conditions. So I think that you would either, can I show you on the drawing, 'cause I can't. I think you would either, you have a line here or you have a line here.
Right, I agree.
And I believe that both of those will work. However, I think meaning either will work in my mind.
Yeah, I'm thinking the lower one reinforces the idea that one section sticks out.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, good.
If everyone else is, let's do
Okay.
that.
So
So
that it has something that it comes.
what we're saying is that maybe you could just point that out for everyone here and for the record.
So what we would do is this would be a stone trim piece that would come right to that corner.
Yeah, fine.
This would all be stone, would still do the rusticated base.
Sure.
So this would be rusticated, this would be the flat stone, this would be the trim piece. And from here over, this would be stucco, from here over, this would be brick. So you get that reinforcement.
Okay, can you tell us what the opening all the way to the right is?
This one?
Yes.
That's the garbage.
And it is what, a garage door?
It's a garage door.
What happened to the storefront, I thought we had another glass,
The old
inspector.
one.
I think didn't we always have the?
I don't know, that seems new. piece that has come, that has appeared.
I'd have to see I was gonna say 1812, the 2012 elevation.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, we had the driveway.
same garage door.
Oh, okay. I missed that, okay. So, and what is that? I'm sorry, I missed that at the last year. It's a garage, it's a
It's
garage
a
door
flush
that's,
panel garage door.
it's made out of what?
It's steel, you know, it's a metal door. It rolls up, and it's, you've got dumpsters. You know, basically what we've done is we've put the dumpsters inside. So we don't have the garbage. I think it was one of the things that we were actually asked to do. At one point, I remember us having a dumpster area alongside the property line, the bank, and the planning board. And I'm going back probably to like 2008, one of the things was to bring that inside in a controlled area so that we didn't have debris sitting outside.
Okay. I want to go on to the last issue I have with this south elevation. And that's the thing we were talking about previously, the increase in the fourth story footprint. And, you know, here is a potential solution for you. You reduce to the line of the brick this bay so that you come in closer, in line closer to what the original roof volume was.
What happens with the other portion?
Which other portion?
Like that one right there in the middle, that.
This guy?
Yeah.
This is getting cut back to this line. Now this roof line is continuing over. There's another place where that happens, and that is on the west elevation. Now, I don't know, we should take a look at the original drawing, but again, we have an instance where we have, you know, we've increased, I'm not sure where it falls.
It's
Somewhere.
no, it's about 1.5 feet.
That's it?
Yeah. It's like there, yeah. It was symmetrical with those 3 windows.
Oh, in the center line of this.
Right.
So, you know, how do we go back to a closer reading of the original volume?
I think that's really hard to do.
Why is that?
Because you're talking about taking apart the existing building.
Why do you have to take apart the existing building to cut back this roof line?
Well, because it's not just roof line, it's the walls, everything that's, you know, you're removing a section of the structure.
It's only on the
Right.
fourth floor. I mean, what you need is, you know, you need some kind of,
Well,
what you're
no,
telling me is you
your-
have
Your
some
structural
line of
floor,
structure here?
yeah, it already stayed, well, it's actually right between the doors down below, right in the
Here.
center of that.
But that's what I'm asking, is there a beam?
Yeah, can't you just can't you?
We have
can't
a
you
beam
ju-
running this way,
load
inside,
wise, can't
carrying
you
that
just,
load.
but you just, if this guy is
Well, that's the
taking up
perimeter
this, you're
wall.
only, you know, you've gotta transfer,
I mean, right now, the modular is there with the structure of it, so I don't think it's a problem with down below. I just think it's the challenge of removing things that have already been built. I mean, it's certainly not impossible to do, I mean,
it's at the place where you are in construction, it's still, it's a headache, but it's not a major hardship, right? Because you don't have finishes on,
it
you
would
don't
be
have
unfair for
interiors
me
done.
to say that, because I'm not.
I'm not asking for you to agree, I'm just telling you what
Okay.
I think.
Yeah,
Also, many times what happens is if you're within a foot of the post, ask your engineer, they might be able to.
no, structurally, I'm sure we could do it,
So this would
I'm sure.
impact unit number 6,
yeah.
right there.
It's also, well, I mean, there's the other
Well, no,
issue,
you'd
which is,
also take
that this is one issue.
bringing this back to here.
I was trying to do facade, one facade at a time, but this is really a volumetric question, so it
Right.
addresses the two. I'm talking about this, Dale, but I'm also talking about, where'd my drawing go? Here, which is taking a window. Right, we're talking about, or we're talking about some, I don't know, some way to bring back into line. You know, obviously there's a natural point here, which that's why I pulled it to this line.
Right.
Looking at the interior, that's an issue.
Mhm.
That's a problem. However,
I mean, I know there's a concern with how big the building is, but
we, go ahead.
okay. But it should be remembered that we are significantly smaller than what's permitted to be built there.
That may be the case, but whatever was agreed upon, whatever was approved in 2010 or 2012, or in this, I keep hearing people tell me it was a 10-year
That might
process.
be more vital.
Whatever happened at that point, they came to the everyone came to the conclusion they did, which was the volume that you had approved. Now, the one we have before us exceeds that volume. And I know that you have shown us that square footage, you're in the same realm,
No, I've
which
made
we
it clear
appreciate.
we added volume.
But we
Yeah.
still have added volume, which,
Yeah.
you know, I wasn't on the board then. I don't want to criticize the previous boards. But we look at it and we see too much mass, too much volume in here. And when we compare it to the approved drawings, we see that it is increased. And so we're
Right.
trying to bring it back into line with and minimize it where we can. So that's,
Could we do that? So this becomes your roof deck. I guess your roof deck's gonna.
I mean, at that point, it would be better to leave this and then start, you know, to try and do that.
It's not really a usable room. If you did
Yeah.
that, at least you'd have this room
Yeah.
would still be here.
I don't disagree with you. My biggest concern is the view
Right.
from here.
I know.
Yeah.
Looking at this volume, so I'd rather get something here than something back here, which is just less present.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, cutting, if this didn't cut and this got cut, I think this would still be usable. So that would be, and that, if we brought that back to where it is, I mean, obviously, this is another one that definitely I'm taking under advisement.
Yeah, I think,
Because I'm not
but the
really-
other thing is that you now, you can look at this apartment as you know, it just gets looked at in a different way. Clear, you know, cutting this back to here for this unit, with this layout doesn't work, but a different layout could work. Right?
If we were a stick
It could become a
built-
studio apartment.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to, or whatever it is it a one bedroom or two bedroom?
it's two bedrooms.
The two.
So it could become a one bedroom and an office or whatever. I mean, you know, there are, it doesn't work with that layout, it's true, but it could work with another layout.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't been through yet, right? I mean, you're talking about a building that's already painted and trimmed with all the electrical, plumbing, mechanical in place.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The building on the interior is a finished space.
But we have to treat this as
No,
though it's a
I'm
brand
just-
new application, as though it's a,
But the idea of, you know,
and that's why, I mean, I understand that some part of this is built, and that's why we're trying to work through the constraints that are different than the ones we would otherwise be working through.
right,
So,
is it possible to do this two-part?
meaning,
To, you know, make a decision on the points that you've gotten? I mean, you'd still be making the decision that you want to make, but having it be where there's the cutting the mansard, setting the railing 42 inches inside, doing the brick on the northeast corner, keeping the stair brick, doesn't change, and then doing the additional stone base and brick on the back. That's one decision that the board makes. The second decision that the board makes is cutting back the volume on the fourth floor to, you know, to what you've sketched, so that those are two distinct things. I mean, it would be.
why don't we just do it and get it over with, so we can talk to you about other projects next week? Why don't we just resolve the problem?
Because I don't think I don't feel comfortable saying yes to that.
Okay.
The other ones, I think I can, if you will, sell that. I think they all make sense. I think they improve the building in certain ways. This one, I think, is a major task that's got a significant cost. So I don't want to speak for the owner and say, sure, we'll do that, and then have it be a problem. So if it needs to have continued conversation.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
No matter what, I think I'd like to see a finished product even on those three issues, the first three issues.
Yeah, I agree, I think, and I think, yeah, I mean, I think Patty is, I mean, I think you understand that there are a bunch of other things that have come up. Some of them are fairly easily resolved, like the south elevation, carrying this stone across.
Yeah, I mean, we can obviously.
This one, you wanna get back,
Well, see, I
consider-
think we could do, I mean, if we could agree on all of those things tonight, so far, then what it becomes to be producing a set of drawings that shows those changes. It's not even a matter, I mean, you could make a decision on those, and then, subject to us bringing in the drawing. On the other one, I mean, we have to, that's, first of all, it needs to be figured out.
of course.
So if we treat, if that one's not resolved, and we come back in, as Dipti was saying, then we could have drawings that show this is what could work, this is where, where it makes sense to do this. Dale was showing a different way of cutting it in, maybe there's a way that it can be made to work, but I agree with you. I think the real issue here, I don't think this makes any real difference. I think this is what shortens up the perceived massing from the corner.
Okay, so you have to look into those questions. I think I'm just gonna interpret what I heard Dipti saying, is that we should be seeing this holistically, and so, I don't think we want to make partial approvals on the east facade and not on a south facade and things like that. So and particularly this one problem that really encapsulates two, that half of the building is, it's important enough for us to need to see the whole thing.
But like being able to proceed with like cutting the mansard, getting the roof watertight.
I see, so you are asking because you want to proceed with some work.
Yeah,
I think that we are in complete agreement about the reduction of the mansard, the
Railing.
change, the railing setback from, but, there's a way, I think that needs to be analyzed also.
and I said, we'll come in with a design for the it's almost like a fence. Come in with a design of the fence, where that gets mounted, what it's made of, and how it's detailed. And that, that's not gonna go on for, probably 2 or 3 months, so, we have some time to work that out. Cutting the mansard is something we need to do right away. I don't think, if we're cutting the corner, and reducing, some of the space that's currently finished, that's gonna be, there's gonna be more to working that out than just, the way cutting the mansard, I've already, I know how that works. I'm not sure how the cutting the corner works.
So what we're requesting is that if we are okay, I wrote down 5 items. If you're okay with the first 4, come in with those the next time so that we can look at it. And then look at the number 50, which is cutting back the mansard.
Yeah, well, I'd be looking
And
at.
if you have,
Yeah.
and if you have something at that point and it looks okay to us, then you're in business.
Right. Are we comfortable with those first 4?
I am. I'm
Once
sorry.
we see the revised documents.
I think we have to see how these things go.
Okay. All right. So anything else?
What did we have? Storefronts, were there any issues regarding?
Well, we restored the door to the 2.
I know. Dan, was there? Okay, I think we have some members of the public that would like to say, Steve, you want to? Okay.
Rebek, former Ahrb. I'll just go through this as quick as I can. To recap, I'm going to hold the mic this time. This all began when a letter was submitted to you that said there are 2 small changes to 2 small facades. They're going to change reduced stone and put back brick on the east and south walls. And then what we discovered was that not only were those 2 walls not even going to change to brick, but rather to stucco, but also there were a host of other changes made, which eventually got discovered. So I'm still on the fence about this, and there's a difference of opinion on some of us former members, that really what should have been done was, right from the get-go, that letter with its proposal, with its drawing, should have been rejected. And the reason I say that is because it should have been rejected on the basis that what's represented in the letter does not represent what the drawings show. Furthermore, architecturally, it's kind of a foolish notion. It's like, it just looks like it's cheapening the building. And it's just misleading, because there were far more changes. But we didn't do that, so we're at this point now, and now it has morphed into this discussion like tonight of how are we going to fix this, and we're going to do a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. We figured out how to fix this building over a 3-year period, many years ago, many boards. So all of this that we do tonight, all of that we did before, is a supreme waste of time, clearly, because what happens is what gets built is whatever we feel like, and that's a terrible precedent to be set. I analyzed the roof heights a little bit because there was some disagreement as to how far the roofs have actually gone up. What I discovered, I'll be brief about this, but even on the approved elevations, you see that the roofs of the mansards are lined through, and they fall slightly below the raised cornice piece. There's about 3 bricks, about 8 inches low, and they align through. But you notice that this represents both elevations. Here again, this goes across, it's below the mansard. If you look just at the middle piece, you see 2 lines representing the roofs beyond, and you see that they align with one another, but they are up into the cornice. So this is misrepresented here. This does not match this. This does not match. This matches. So what was happening last week is we were saying it's a foot off. It's gone up a foot or 2'4". Well, it depends which elevation you look at. That's why it's gone up. I proved that the last time. It has gone up. These are, in fact, all the changes that have been made to the building. At least as many as I could find in a couple of days of looking. But going back to that first issue of why this maybe should have rejected the first time, now we're in a funny situation where here are revisions as requested by the Ahrb meeting, but I have no recollection of the fact that the Ahrb recommended that this be still brought down as stucco, and this still be brought down as stucco. So the real art of obfuscation is to take the focus off of some stuff by putting the focus on something else, okay? We're talking all about these roof changes, these reduction of the roof, which significantly do not reduce the impact of the roof. And the railings are absurd. You could basically corral around the mechanical equipment, make a safe passageway from the stair out to the mechanical equipment, and you don't need to access any of the rest of that roof for all intents and purposes. If you're going out to access it, you rope yourself in, same as the way you would service the facade on the outside. You don't need these things right at the edge. And they're drawn all dark and scary looking because it's like, let's not do this, you know, but that's something that should be done, is push those railings back. But it, again, takes the emphasis off, this is the real problem. this needs to move back. You need to get that roof moved back to where it was. You need to change that roof, and I'll get into why you need to do that in a minute. One of the things maybe no one noticed was that when they built this piece on the front, when it came shipped as a box, it was only this wide, because that's how wide the boxes are. We've heard all about how the boxes are only a certain width and so forth. And yet this width is pretty substantial. You know why? Because they stick-built additional boxes that they put up here that all blend in. Going back to this solution shown in plan, the right way to do this, it's the hard way, it's not going to be elegant on the inside, but the right way is to effectively build a foundation underneath this and build a box the full height of the building, furred out to that full 1 foot 4 inches, so that there is an alignment. You don't have to do this step back and step back. Just fur this out. It's going to be a little bit of a mess on the inside because you're going to have basically a very thick wall with these windows in there. But this is what happens when you go ahead and make changes without authorization. You got to suffer the consequences. You got to man up and make the changes. And you need to move this wall back. It needs to be done because this is a very important element that was pulled back for that very compelling reason. Also, Yair's not here to defend himself on this. I apologize, but this is a terrible idea. This roof should be put back. And to kind of paraphrase him, he said, well, it's a terrible building, and this would just be awful to do to a terrible building. But since it's a terrible building, who cares? Well, no, this is an awful solution to a terrible building, and it shouldn't be considered. We've made this roof low here because now this is starting to look like a regular old apartment house. This should be broken back down to here. And where it seems like we've got some solutions on how to fix the mansard, so maybe it won't be so bad to begin with, but that's a terrible idea. These are the same details you just looked at. I won't get into those, but here's some drawings I found, and this is the way a roof is built, a real mansard roof. It's a roof and a roof. And the inside, this is a sloped wall. It's a ceiling, actually, if it's and yes, it does interfere. Lo and behold, it interferes with the space on the inside in order to achieve this detail. It just does that. That's a fact of life. There's another one, same thing. So all this is this is an applique of some kind of fakey resemblance of a mansard roof. But really, this could go away. This is basically the building. Basically, in both cases. And shame on us, retroactively shame on us, for allowing us to be seduced into this idea that we measure to the halfway point of this roof. That is ridiculous. Steve Tilley pointed it out ad absurdum. In other words, to the most absurd point, he pointed it out. This is the Shard of London. It's 1,016 feet. But measured to the center of the sloped roof, it's only 508 feet. Because this is a roof, really. That's what the logic behind this whole thing is. So that's ridiculous. But here's the big news flash. We're all here talking about how we're going to fix the parapet and how we're going to fix the roof. Here's the approved elevations. Notice that this element is higher than these roofs. Notice that. Notice in the proposed elevations, everything's gone up. But this is still higher than this. Flash forward to today. This is what's constructed as of today. This line comes across, and it's exactly in line with this. That means that either there has to be more roof added to this, which I doubt because it looks like the tar paper is closed off the top of this. It's done. And the tar paper is closed off the top of this. So it's done. And yet they align. And yet they're not supposed to. So this is a project that is so extraordinarily out of control that it needs someone to take control of it again. And that needs to, I'm afraid, be the Architectural Review Board. we hear a lot about how when the building went to modular, we lost control, we had to change, the state took control. What's never discussed, and never has been addressed, and never will be addressed fully, is the fact that this building didn't have to go to modular. What any architect, real architect, would have done would be to bring the approved drawings to a modular company and say, we need to do this. The modular company would come back and say, we can do this, except we need to change the entire building. The architect would say, thank you very much, roll up the plans and walk out. Go to the next modular company, see what they will do. Maybe they'd say the same thing. The point is, nobody made anybody do anything. Nobody made anybody do this. And to believe that this was done because we're under a time constraint, this is my semi-last point. This is a calendar, 2012. Bottom down there, 26th of November 2012, ARB approval. This is 2013. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November 1st. Issue date for the drawings, as per what's written on the drawings. 2 weeks later, on the 21st, revised is an unknown revision. And a week later, on the 26th, revised, relocate stair entry after a year. 2014, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September 30th, revised, added drawings of masonry opening heights added dimensions of masonry opening heights on first floor. Doesn't seem to have mattered because they're all changing again. October, November 20th, revised, added exterior door to garbage room. We're 2 years in. We've made 2 small changes. 2015, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September 15th. Added existing door to retail space. Oh, added exterior door to retail space. October 27th, added property line at east elevation, added opening protective. That was probably because the building ended up being too close to the bank, so they needed to do an opening protective on it. I don't know, but maybe that's it. That brings us to 2016. And now here we are in 2016. We've spent 3 meetings, and basically we still haven't changed this. And what's going on out there now? People are still hammering away. They're nailing away. And this is nothing like what's proposed, nothing like what was approved. And like I said, we are wasting our time. Your path ahead as the ARB is clear. You need to reject these changes, especially the changes to the roof. Especially the changes to the roof. You need to get those roofs back the way they were, because I'm holding in my hand 2 findings from 2005 that sound a lot like 2 Ashford Avenue, okay? This is an appeal from a decision by the Architectural Review Board, ARB, on December 27, 2004, denying applicants' request to approve several after-the-fact deviations from conditions of an earlier ARB approval for the subject properties. Applicant is the owner of parcel bounded on 3 sides by Ashford, LaFerge, and Virginia Avenues, on which has recently constructed 4 family modular houses, the project. And it goes on to talk about where it's situated and so forth. The building department issued foundation permits on or about December 16, 2003. These were converted to full construction permits on or about April 2004. On December 2004, applicant appeared again before the ARB. By that time, the 4 structures had been erected, and it was noted that 2 of them did not conform in several respects to the plans that had been approved by the ARB in June of 2003. Of greatest significance, both buildings had been constructed with a flat gable on the elevation facing the street, whereas the approved plans called for eave with 2 dormers on that facade. There were several additional deviations, including use of wood entryways and steps in place of the previously approved masonry, use of vinyl front and side railings in place of previous approved wood railings. It goes on and on. What happened was the ARB rejected the changes. They denied it. It was appealed to the zoning board, and that's what this is. The zoning board upheld the Architecture Review Board, and they changed the roofs. They changed them on 2 buildings, but then the applicant rebuilt one of them incorrectly again. And again, the building department went out, told him he needed to change it. Again, he appealed it. Again, the zoning board upheld the Ahrb decision, and he changed them again. This is the second one I won't go into in great detail, but this is one on Allen Street, okay?
No, I understand. I'm familiar with those 2 precedents.
Yeah.
I mean, we're, you know, some of the points
If
we're
you
addressing.
don't disapprove this, if you let this go, these people are gonna be back like gangbusters. And when you reject it, while you're writing that finding of rejection, the applicant will be applying for a zoning variance to the ZBA for an appeal. And when it gets to the ZBA, these documents come out again. So your job is to just get it past you. If you don't reject these, they're gonna be coming back for you. They're gonna be coming back for everybody. They'll be coming back for you first. And then they'll come back to the ZBA. We need to do the right thing here. You need to get those roofs back to what was approved, because there is living precedent for changing things that were done wrong. That's it, I guess. I think
Thank you.
it's something.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we continue this to the next
Someone
application.
else.
Is someone else? Please, be brief if you could.
Good evening, Chair and board members. Lee Constantine. A statement at the last meeting was made claiming that a determination was rendered that the application was not required to be reviewed by the planning board or the BOT. What criterion was used to solidify the statement? What date was the determination made? What department or board signed off on it? The developers changed the project, and any problems generated by the effect of it is their task, and the village is not in a partnership with them to correct their whims. The applicant's agent claimed 2 weeks ago it is a de minimis change. I submit to you, it is not a de minimis change. Since it was so big to begin with, any increase is significant. The issue is, did the applicant note the height changes on the plan upon submission of the so-called facade change? If so, did the building department advise them to seek reapproval through the plan? If not, was an application submitted to the Ahrb before the first module piece was installed? And if so, why was the construction allowed to continue without an approval for the changes? Why wasn't a stop work order issued? Allowing the applicant and or their agents to plow ahead with construction of an unapproved plan sends a message to other applicants that once something changes between approvals, the village has no control and demonstrates poor policy. Lastly, to begin with, the project should not have been approved based on excessive dissimilarity to its closest neighbor, Chase Bank, for the undesirable issues of the building hiding and looming over their building. It goes against the sentiment of the vision plan and zoning code that shuns buildings looming over its neighbors within the 200-foot zone. As these excessive dissimilarity projects sprout throughout the village, the Ahrb is losing its power and diminishing their own code. If the argument is an as of right for the excessive dissimilarity for the developer to build despite excessive dissimilarity, then on the other hand, it can be argued for brick versus stone and mortar joint colors as well, and there would be no need to have a board to persuade developers to build what the board likes, because as you know, those are subjective opinions and have no legal standing. Thank you.
Thank you.
32 Walnut Street. I'll stay away from the legal issues, the architectural issues, although I agree with both Steve and you guys as far as how some of these things have morphed and should be addressed and fixed more in line with how it was originally approved. The other thing I would note about some of these meetings is that it really isn't about just what's on the plans. It's about negotiating something different from what exists or what's approved. And I hear some of the problems of getting this done is that we don't have the owner or the engineer here to argue those points about what can be done and what they'll agree to. Yet somebody's here arguing to get freebies or something like that. It's very unproductive, and I don't think that would normally be tolerated for the rest of the community either. Just like, you know, being able to put this up and continue to build when something hasn't been approved. I'm sure I would have been stopped if I were working on my own house similarly. Thank you.
My name is Dan Schneider, Belton Avenue. I've lived in Duxbury almost 60 years, and all I've heard for a long time is how wonderful the gateway. We have to improve that so our old town will look better. That I agree with what everybody said, that it is the increased volume and everything. I remember when the landings were built and the developer came in and cut down all the trees on Memorial Day weekend, and the fine was only $500. So I would like to suggest that if somehow this all gets settled in a way that's not approved by you, that we should have the penalty, and quite a bit of a penalty. I'm not sure, but I would think $1 million to set a precedent for other developers coming to our town. And I would like that money not to just go into the regular fund, but I would like to see it put toward landscaping of the entire Duxbury. I'm with the Garden Club of Duxbury, and I could see we could use improvement along those lines. I was a teacher, and I would like to see some of that money used for a way for art to be displayed for the students in all 3 schools. And I would also like improvement to the senior center. That's not up to par according to my standards now that I'm a senior. So I think that's my opinion that you should consider.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Revisit the question of the motion to continue to the next application. Do I have a second? 50 seconds. Unanimous. Okay. The next applicant is 117 Main Street. Anyone here from Ferryman Cafe? No? I think we can just
Does it need to,
try to get through this. And are there any issues with this sign?
As long as the planner make a note on it that the minimum elevation to the bottom of the sign from grade is no less than 7 feet. But that's it.
Why don't we note that on this, and we can.
This one, everybody else, this one.
Okay, so with the stipulation that the bottom of the sign be no lower than 7 feet tall, make a motion to approve the Ferryman Cafe application as submitted.
Second.
Dale seconds, unanimous. 3 Cedar Street.
That's Matt Schneider, got from Design Community Development. Matt Campbell is the young man right here, who is the person who is, bold enough to open a meat butcher shop in Dobbs, which I think is phenomenal. What you've got before you is the signage for that. We've got everything that you'd like us to show you, but it's your call whether you need to see all the photographs and everything else. It's up to you.
I don't think that's necessary. Could you describe, Eddie, just briefly what constitutes this project? You're doing
Here,
you're restaining the wood?
Yeah, the wood is being stripped, so it'll be restored to a natural wood. You've got a sample of the wood, the color that it will be.
Medium brown, okay.
And there is a sign painted on Butcher, following from the parlor, which I think everybody was a little, we'll have to see if that's going to come out well, and I think we all think that's great. So following that concept is, then the lettering comes on the window, which is that a decal stuck on there?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a decal that goes on, says Campbell Meats, and then it has butchery and charcuterie underneath it, and the number 3, a very, specific shape, precise.
This looks. Ed, do you see any issues with the sign?
You're also,
The height sign?
one issue is letters maximum 14 inches high. I think the Butcher is at 16 3/4, so it's just a little big by code. And you're also approving pendant lights.
Oh, okay, there's some lights on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a maximum size of 14, you're 2 3/4 inch oversized.
Yeah, I think it looks better that way, but obviously if you want, you look at the parlor and those are, it's bigger. I think when it's painted right on like that, I think it looks better if it's a little bit bigger.
And do you remember what we agreed to at the parlor? It is a bigger painted sign.
Yeah, I'd say probably,
No, I know, I remember that.
it's probably around 24 inches. Yeah.
I think that the proportion is too narrow for it to be too tall.
Okay.
See what's happening with the parlor is it's got a lot more width to it.
Right, it does.
I think it'll look better if you put it down.
Actually, it seems like it seems like the letters in the photo montage
Small.
are smaller than in the orthographic
Yeah, we
drawing.
went off of the next sheet, behind that, no, this one, in your left hand. If you turn the page, they've got dimensions on it.
Yeah.
So we,
The photographic rendering, I don't think is to scale. I think that's something that was just photoshopped by my sign guy.
Yeah.
But that is the
So
actual
that one is
dimension.
what this one is.
Exactly.
I guess
That'll
what-
reflect the
I
dimension.
think-
That one actually looks better.
Yeah,
So
I think
reduce it to 14 and
I think you
then-
reduce it a little bit. I don't think you're gonna lose any street presence by going down.
in other words, if it looks like the rendering as opposed to.
I think so. One thing just to add on that actually changed today when I spoke to my air conditioning guy, I'm getting rid of that air conditioner. I'm just
Okay.
going to continue the paneling.
that's great.
And there's going to be an interior unit versus it's
Much
ductless. So what I would actually prefer is maybe making it, oh,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, never mind.
What I would prefer to make it a little bit larger so that it's now centered over the entire storefront, not just over the window as it was before.
Oh, I see.
So-
You see what I'm saying?
You wanna pull it through this
Because
way.
now,
I
since
think
that air
proportionally
conditioner
it'll look much
will
nicer.
be
It
removed,
will be
it'll look
spaced
silly
out.
if we keep the letters in the same spot as on this drawing. But like I said, I just found that out this afternoon.
So
Okay.
that's gonna go.
Is your
The,
intent,
the air conditioner will go bye-bye, yes.
Yeah.
so if you do that,
Much
is your
nicer.
intent to
Yeah.
increase the number of lighting fixtures so that it?
At that point,
Because it
we
looks kind of
probably, I don't know that we increase it, I think we just space
I
it out.
could,
You sort of have 3 there, and it
Right.
looks kind of tight. I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's also the rendering, what we're showing, the 3 pendants,
Right.
because that's recessed in, I think.
Really,
it's,
you're gonna do this? You're gonna,
Yeah, if we center above the door,
Yeah.
center in the middle, and center on the end, and keep it to 3, I think is better than going
your
to.
sign is gonna be kind of here.
Yeah, And what we'll do is, you know, obviously, I mean, if we come back in 2 weeks to show them that, that's not a hindrance to you, right?
It is, I mean, I would just have to speak to the sign designer. I mean, since it's painted, I don't think that's gonna affect his plan as much as a decal change would.
Yeah,
But I'd just like to know as soon as possible.
The glass is fine?
The glass is
The
fine.
glass
Yeah, so the decal part of it, so it's a painting, what we'll do is we'll draw
Right.
that up so you can see the actual dimension.
Okay, great. I mean, you know, this is like, well, this is all we need. If you wanna
That's
You don't
what I
need
did
to
earlier.
design in.
I was gonna do a sketch of them all.
All right, why don't you build a physical model downtown and then we'll think about it.
And we want every brick shown on it, and with the mortar.
Yeah, I mean, we just need, we
With the mortar joint.
just need,
Given that larger
Yeah,
width
I would
now,
like to see
would you
what
be
it-
okay with the higher letter? I mean,
you mean the
given what?
16 and 3/4?
And then
Yeah, I just think that
It's the proportion.
It has to
Visually
look
would get-
right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we're okay if we wanna, if, you know, I know that sign is a little bit bigger, it's in your, you know, the painted sign is slightly different than the other sign. If you know, you wanna go an inch or two larger, we could consider that, but I don't know if we wanna go too much bigger. Why don't you show us what it looks like, and
Yeah.
we'll,
And it is
The
proportional.
light fixtures, enamel shades, black shades, white shades.
Are you using the
Like
enamel
like
lights
those?
outside?
I am, but I can paint them whatever
I mean,
color
I
you
just
guys
wonder
like.
what you want. No, it's what
Yeah,
you-
well, we've got our enameled shades so that with the right bulb in it, it'll be a very soft light that comes down on it.
I was gonna probably keep them dark, like either black or,
Yeah,
you know, kind of matte color that you,
yeah, like a
during the
matte-
day they wouldn't be
matte
that
black.
present.
Right.
okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just bring, you can just bring this one Photoshop.
Just that would,
That's all we would, yeah.
Yep.
With butcher
Yeah.
in the right proportion, exact height.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. And this, we had this all filled out properly?
When are you gonna open?
Wait, yeah,
I'm hoping for Memorial Day,
Okay.
if the sign goes smoothly.
Okay. Okay, all right, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Make a motion to continue this as, with these,
But if his guy is moving forward with the stencil or the cutout for the glass,
So
That's
basically,
that's,
the wood renovation and the decal is fine, but I can proceed with that work, but just not the actual painting of the butcher. Is that fair?
that's fine by me. You guys
Yes,
have-
that's fine.
Good.
So when and tonight we'll give an approval,
Partial.
a partial approval just on the glass, and the stencil sign, and then we'll see you in 2 weeks for
That's great.
the
Excellent.
That's fine.
revised painted sign.
Cool, thank you very much.
thanks.
Good, second, I guess we're gonna partial approval, or do we just do it all? We'll just continue, okay. Motion to continue, 50 seconds, unanimous. Thank you.
Yeah, that's.
Nineteen Forkland.
I'm Christina Griffin. I'm the architect for these additions and renovations to this single-family house. It was originally built in 1815, very old. And what we'd like to do is to expand the lower level. Right now, this house has 4 bedrooms, and on the 1 bedroom is on the, what we call the upper level, and then we have 3 small bedrooms on the level above that. But on the main level, when you come into the house, it has a center hall, what was probably originally a living room, and then what might have been a dining room, I'm not sure, but we'd like to use these rooms as a drawing room and a study and keep them in the condition that they are now. as much as possible, but with, of course, some insulation. And we're focused on adding additions to the side and the rear of the house, because in the lower level is where we have the kitchen. And the kitchen opens up into a terrace, a brick terrace, and we'd like to expand that kitchen because it's very small, and also expand off the dining room so there is a new living room. We're calling it a living room because we want to keep the drawing room, or the room above, just to keep it in its original condition, so that it's a very charming room with fireplace, and it really has a lot of charm. So we're adding these two additions to the back, and these are the elevations. This one is the east elevation, looking at the back of the house. This is a house that has 18-inch thick stone walls. This is our proposed kitchen addition, mudroom entry, and our proposed one-story living room addition. This is an existing two-story piece that was added to the house maybe in the 50s or 60s. And what we're trying to do is to come up with a common siding material that will be in harmony with the old stone house. Right now, there are these irregular shakes for this two-story piece. We want to remove those and put a new cedar clapboard siding on this existing two-story piece, on this new one-story piece, one over here. And we would like to stain the cedar so it picks up the grays that are in the existing stone. All these windows are shown as new. We're replacing the windows in the old house. We're also replacing the windows in this two-story piece. And these are the windows that are in the additions, and we've decided on having these large panes for all the new windows so that you can appreciate the view of the very pretty property from inside the house. On the south elevation, this shows the new living room addition, and what we'd like to do is a deep energy retrofit, so we have lots of glass facing south. These are south-facing doors into the kitchen, and the roofs on these additions will be a standing seam copper roof. This is the front facade. Really beautiful stone of different grays, a little bit of cream in them. We have limestone lintels over the windows, and we plan to keep the house in its original condition, to restore that facade just by making repairs. This is an existing projection that has a bedroom on one level and a guest room on another level, and we're planning to replace all the siding and all the windows. This is our addition that is on the basement level, just peeking up above the grade here with the new standing seam copper roof. And then on the north elevation, which is the side of this existing structure, what we're trying to do is to replace the siding, all the windows, and this is the side of the kitchen addition. All these ideas sort of stem from wanting to have a very simple facade that's very much like a farmhouse look with some muntins, but very simple pattern with 4.5 inch by 5/4 trim, 10-inch friezeboard going around. This is our 3D view showing the two additions. All the colors will be, this is a stained cedar that will pick up on the grays that are existing in the stone. We're planning to extend the brick patio. The cladding on the windows will be a gray color, and these were simulated divided light muntins.
I think it's very tasteful, very, very sophisticated intervention. I like the strategy behind the lights, and I think the stained cedar is a smart choice. I don't have any.
No, it's a beautiful addition.
Suggestions to make it any better.
The only comment I had was about the muntins and those large panel doors, and you've added them up there, they weren't in this set.
We made that decision on the way here. We tried to tie it all together.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
So you are proposing what's on the screen?
A big stone. It's a pretty view, but it helps to integrate all the elements.
The door seemed rolled forward, just those big panels. It's very pretty.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we approve this application with the same muntin arrangement on the large glass doors. Do a second?
Second.
Bill seconds. Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
182 Broadway, please.
Good evening, I'm Bill Brown. We bought 22 Broadway about 5 weeks ago. Pulled the permit and took out 100 feet of bamboo. So everybody on the trail keeps going by and saying, why'd you take out all the bamboo? Well, it's just a beautiful weed, and my wife's a master gardener, so we'll be replanted, but not with bamboo. But we do have an active dog, and we wanted to replace it with an ornamental, or a wood fence with some light through it, secure the rear of the house, and we'll continue to demolish part of the 1903 and try to keep it intact as we go through it. But we're proud to be part of the community. We moved from California, so this is quite an evening for us. I can't believe that first building went on for so long, like 10 years. But and you guys have
You should see what happens with fences.
You know, I'm in the real estate business, and I stand in front of you guys a lot, so my wife says, you gotta go do this, because this is what you do, but if I fail, you know, don't tell me.
You're fired, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, yeah, and this is an easy one. It's a great house. It's one of the better houses in
It's a
the village,
fantastic
actually.
house.
Just
Yeah, as
sort
long
of
as you get
proportions are
across
just
Broadway,
right.
it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great.
And the fence looks good, so I don't think we have any issues there.
Approved.
Two things.
Make-
First of all, welcome to Duxbury.
Thank you.
I know that bamboo is extremely invasive, speaking from experience, so.
I watched 10 guys for
I
6
know.
days and 10 hours a day with pickaxes and hacksaws to
Uh-huh.
take that stuff down. It was unbelievable, but we're glad it's gone.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Thank you.
So motion to approve the fence is submitted.
Second.
Dale seconds, unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Right. 74 Virginia Avenue.
Good evening. Good evening. Sandro, resident of Virgin Avenue. Proposing a 80 square foot kitchen extension in the rear house.
Is someone speaking?
Pardon?
Is someone speaking?
Yes, someone is speaking.
I can actually hear the voices in the back.
Well, maybe-
I can hear the-
Okay, thank you. Could you just grab the microphone? Thank you.
It's an 80 square foot kitchen extension on the rear of the home on 74 Virginia Avenue. As well as a canopy above the front entrance above the garage.
So the canopy, I just want to understand this. The canopy, you're adding, so this is the kitchen addition, right? This volume back here?
Correct.
And then you're also adding this guy, this piece?
Oh, here.
Correct.
And the railing, or what do you have?
The
currently?
railing is existing.
Okay, so you're adding a canopy over the front door?
Correct.
And are you also adding a piece here?
Correct. It's existing. We're just replacing with something newer.
Okay, that's fine. And what is this new
This is
front
the
canopy
it's
made?
canopy, the new canopy,
What is it made out of?
by wood, you know, it's the new
So
construction.
wood, it's painted to match the trim work?
It's gonna be matching the charcoal roof, and then it's gonna be trimmed white with the rest of the house.
Got it, so you're painting that post white, you're painting the railings
The railings gonna
white,
be-
and then this roof is gonna match that roof?
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. Stucco's gonna match, same thing in the back, roof is gonna match, the new roof on the
Correct.
addition is gonna match this material?
Yeah, he's got
The
it.
house will be finished off in vinyl siding. It'll
You put
be-
the vinyl in the top of the stock.
Oh, it's vinyl on the second floor.
It's gonna be vinyl, it's gonna be similar to the color that's on the wall, right behind this one, this gray. And then it's, the.
Sorry, show me where you have the vinyl, I don't understand, I thought this was all,
On the second,
but there's no second floor addition.
no.
No, there is no
that's
second
existing.
floor addition. It's just, instead of carrying the textured stucco onto the kitchen, we're gonna do vinyl siding on the rest of the house. Once this, the addition is built.
Okay, so so after you do the addition, you're putting vinyl siding on the whole house?
Oh, exactly.
Correct.
Okay. What's wrong with the stucco?
It's cracked on the west wall.
It's very old, you know, I mean, first of all, the house doesn't have insulation, so we do the best I can with the siding, possible insulation between, you know what I mean?
And it can't be repaired, the stucco's not, in my mind, the stucco's nicer than the, you know, the code, we don't say you cannot use vinyl siding, it's just sort of, it's a lesser material.
We can't be guaranteed that the stucco will not crack above the current stucco. It's cracked in 3 places and has been filled with caulking material or material to help with the water return.
First of all, if you put the siding in between, so you put insulation, so they can, you know, we save energy because it keep warm in the house too.
I'm not sure what I'm putting this in, because this is gonna stay.
Well, I guess, yeah, I mean,
This is
it
staying
sounds to me
stucco
like,
here.
like they're gonna put siding on the whole
And
house.
that's stucco, but this is what I understood was they're looking for vinyl.
But what about the whole house?
The whole house would be, the front and rear second floor would be a shaker style shingles. And
Wait, so then where is the vinyl side?
the vinyl siding is gonna be all, the gray is gonna be in between the soffits on the sides and on the first floor,
Over here,
below the soffits.
on the underside of the house?
Right, it's gonna be straight.
I guess I,
So you're gonna have 3 different things, you're gonna have stucco,
There will be no stucco.
No,
there'll be
stop.
no stucco. Oh,
So
Okay.
even on the
And
new
I'm-
addition, it will become siding and.
Correct.
You're correct.
I see, even though it says,
yeah, it's a little confusing.
And there's a note to move the chimney into B vent and a box around it. What would the chimney box be finished in?
There should be stuff, there should be vinyl also. Get boxed in vinyl.
Yeah,
No, you can't make a chimney out of vinyl. You can't.
It's not a chimney, it's just a.
It is a chimney. Doesn't matter what's going on in there, it's a chimney, it looks like a chimney. I think we need you to show us what's what.
vinyl,
Yeah, because I hear you describing some things, but I'm not really following, and this drawing, for example, says one thing, cement stucco finish to match existing, but it's not gonna be there. We need an elevation with notes that represent what you intend to do with the house. We can't have a drawing that says stucco, you know, you gotta call out what all these things are, we have to see what this is gonna be, you're gonna bring in a sample for us. It's gotta be taken a little bit further.
Okay.
We can't get one drawing and then a different description at the hearing and,
No, the architect did that things, so.
yeah, well, you gotta get your money's worth and tell them to
Okay, we do what
to draw this as you intend to have it built, and then we will review it as a whole.
Okay.
And we can do that at the next hearing, if you can get us some revised drawings next week.
Okay, so no problem.
Okay? I mean, otherwise, I will just say that, just in terms of the volume, I have no issue with adding this piece on the back for the kitchen. I have no issue with the canopy in the front. I'd make, match the roof materials, put a little note on here. But if you're gonna change the facade material, we need to see what you're doing and where.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Motion to continue this to the next hearing. Anybody, 50 seconds, unanimous? Thank you. Where are we? 51 Belden. '49 Clinton, Master School.
Have boards here of the submission, will you drop to that, or here?
If you've got a digital presentation, whatever's easiest. I mean, the truth is, this is fairly straightforward, and the signs look pretty good, so.
Can I pop a stick in here and draw up a paperback file? So my name is Peter Shearer from Nation Plus in Pleasantville. I'm a signing and graphic designer, and I'm representing my client here, the Master's School. They have engaged us to think about a master plan for their campus signing. And that first page that I've shown you is essentially for context. My understanding from the building department is that the signs interior to the campus wouldn't require permits, but that obviously you guys would be interested in what the family of signs looks like. So what's anticipated
Could you take the mic for us so that we can get you recorded?
What's anticipated here, and what we're here primarily for you today, is the notion of a sign here at the corner at Broadway and Clinton, a sign here at the main entrance to the campus, and then the next level down sign further up at the entrance further up Clinton that heads back to the fields and to the back part of the campus. So the rest of this reflects a schematic plan for where the other signs would go. Masters is potentially going to do them all at once, but budget permitting, it may happen in phases. So what you see on that second page is the family of signs that we have proposed. The first being the primary ID sign, and that's the one we have proposed at the corner down by Broadway and also at the main entrance. This is a secondary sign used at the secondary entrance, but also used as a directional within the campus. Now that the Fonseca Center has been built, there is a need to sort of sharpen up the clarity of how people get around and get back out. That sign will be used for that purpose. This smaller sign, working its way down in the hierarchy, is primarily to identify major buildings as well as major fields, and then we intend to replace the current polyglot collection of regulatory signs with a somewhat nicer version for miscellaneous messages about parking and stop signs and the like, to put it on a square aluminum tube, a little cap, paint the back black, and get rid of the punched channels. So the materials in all cases are relatively consistent. We're talking about aluminum fabrication for all the post and arm structures. For these two signs, we're talking about a granite base. That's probably a fake granite base. That is to say, I think the sign is going to be mounted into the ground with a series of mated plates and the granite wrapped around it. This sign, the building and field sign, we are proposing actually to use a granite post. And then these are just 2-inch aluminum extruded posts. So what we have proposed here for all of these signs is that the field is the Masters branding standard PMS purple. It's a fairly deep, rich purple. I have a sample here, but I think the printouts I gave you are pretty color accurate. The rendition of the Masters school name in Kelowna is the lockup for the recent Masters branding. Bob Thorne here from the Masters School, the Director of Communications. The typography everywhere else uses block Gothic, which is the secondary typeface in the Masters identity. We have added a little bit of detail to sort of suggest a little historical association, and yet detailing is clean and modern. There's no attempt to pretend that these things are old signs. We have added the notion that the smaller part of the crossarm might be used on a temporary basis for a celebratory banner or something of the kind, that being something that wouldn't exist most of the time but could come and go. Likewise, we proposed over here the possibility that we might be able to add a specific directional message that would hang on eye hooks at the bottom to avoid what has inevitably turned into sort of a little forest of lawns of sort of political signs stuck into the landscape. I show on the later pages a little more detail about how this plays out. That's the larger sign, all in a total of 12 inches. The sign panel itself, 3'6" by 4'6", produces a total square footage by face of 15.75. Again, there are only 2 of those signs. And then as you march your way to this approximation of what they might look like, the sign on the left is at the primary Masters entry, about halfway up Clinton. The sign on the right is the sign that would be down at Broadway. There is currently an existing rusty old metal frame that evidently is some sort of a Masters sign from way back when. That would all get cleared up. And based on the survey we have, the sign itself, obviously, as well as its projection, remains within the property line. We certainly confirm that for sure. The smaller sign, this being the one that would appear at the secondary entrance further up Clinton, 11 feet high in total. This time the panel is 3 feet by 4'6", adds up to 11.5 square feet. We have suggested, but are not certain, that we would need to avail ourselves of the option of a ground mount light, and have proposed this one. It comes with a series of baffles as well as framing devices, both to make sure that the light is cut off and aimed only specifically at the sign, but also to make sure that you can't see the light source. So it's not certain that we would need to do that, but we'd like permission to do it if it turns out that it would be helpful to have it so that people can find their way into the school. So happy to respond to any questions you have.
What is the code?
Upward lighting is prohibited.
So right, upward lighting is prohibited at the moment. I would say there are a lot of things that are prohibited that don't make a lot of sense for this specific circumstance. This is in the E1 zone, and the sign code is written to reflect retail signs on storefronts. So.
No. It's written to reflect all signs.
Makes more sense, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, for retail signs on storefronts.
I would have to take another look at this portion of the code. I think the signs are very well done. I don't have anything to add to the signage. The uplighting, however, I think we have to, I would have to look a little more closely at it.
I understand.
Not prepared for that.
And honestly, I don't think the school is certain that they would want to go ahead with that anyway, so happy to cleave that off as a separate piece for further review to determine if that's acceptable or not. If we can get a sense for the board that the rest of this makes sense, we'll go continue through the detailing and actually get some hits that from
Since I face those signs,
just a moment.
could we ask more questions?
Just a moment. Do we have any comments on the board for the signage?
I think the signs, the types, the sizing looks fine. My only concern would be they're very large placards, and I'm just wondering if they might pose a hazard during severe weather. If you need to be secured at the base or secured at the bottom edge.
That'll get detailed, and we certainly will require that the sign fabricator get these stamped by a licensed engineer to confirm the wind loads and all of that. I think it's almost certain that they'll be tied back at the bottom in some way. We like to avoid that being a very prominent element, but clearly it can't be swinging in the wind.
Okay, so, you will at some point, I mean, it looks to me like there's a pretty clear location. I mean, you would just have a similar attachment point to the vertical post that you have as to the horizontal above, or?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a likelihood given the size of the sign.
No doubt. It is possible. I actually recently did a project where, in the end, the fabricator brought threaded rods all the way through the sign panel, blind attached inside, that created the appearance of a hanging sign, but in fact it was a rigid connection. We might end up with that.
Okay.
So I think the point is, this is the look we're trying to achieve, and we certainly cannot have these signs swinging in the wind.
Okay.
So.
Any comments? Please, will you come take the microphone if you have a comment?
I think the signs are attractive. Being right across the street from one of them, though, I do have more questions. I'm not sure how large they are. And this sign, I understand very clearly where it is. I think this is the one at Broadway.
There are two of those. One is at the corner by Broadway. The other is at the main entrance to the school.
And so that's,
Right, there's the main
they're the
entrance.
same
Right,
size.
right, the same size. The left picture is the main entrance.
This is
Main
Broadway.
entrance being Cochran,
Is that the
across from Cochran?
Yes. Yes. So this is that little stone pylon that has a cast plank in it. So that's the probably the.
Not there, no. So this is the one that's, I am a little disoriented. This is
The image
one
on the
that's-
right is Broadway. That's
This is Broadway.
yes.
Okay. And
Go back to the plan here. So here's Broadway right here. Here's the corner of Clinton. Here's Cochran.
here's
So the sign that is in the right picture that I'll show you again in a moment is right here at the corner of Clinton and Broadway. The second sign is right here at the main entrance to the school where it forks off in front of the master building.
And I think this is the one that
Is there a question that you would like to ask?
I'm sorry?
Is there a question that you would like to ask?
There sure is. If
Can
I
you-
could figure out where it is and how big it is.
Okay, what is your question?
I'm right across from here, I believe,
Okay.
and this looks back to the dormitories and to the cafeteria, and this
Yes.
is, okay, this is the one I'm considering. So right now, what that has is, it's on the ground about this high, and I'm just wondering. how
No,
much
it is
difference-
12 feet tall. It is,
What is 12
She
feet?
means
The sign
existing-
is
I think
12
she meant
feet
the
tall.
existing sign.
Existing sign. Right,
She
the
means the
existing
existing
sign
sign.
is just a couple of stakes in the ground with a sign there, and it's about 16 inches wide.
It's small, there's no doubt.
And how tall is this one?
So the sign that would be at your the location you just mentioned is this one. It's, the post is 11 feet high. The sign panel itself is 3 feet wide by 4'6" high. And that is mostly driven by the need to get these messages at a minimum 3-inch letter height, which is about the minimum is realistic for a driver at low speed to be responding to.
Okay, I don't want to take up your time,
Please
but
speak into the microphone.
oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I don't really quite understand. If this really is the sign, 11 feet tall and 3 by something, I don't think it's at all appropriate for in a residential area and where the need has been served by something this tall for so many years. I'm just trying to imagine what that's going to look like, something that tall. And I think that's the smaller one of the 3 that you show, right?
1 foot smaller and a smaller sign panel.
What is, this one is?
This is the second in the series here. That,
That one.
no, next one over. Second over.
Code limits
Second
for
from the
9
left.
square feet.
9 square feet.
Check this out.
administration, I can't read what's, I just can't understand where it is.
That copy is not what would be on the sign, if you're thinking about the same one up by our.
How do we get by with some of the other?
That would be inside, turned into the main campus. That's the one sign that, that will be giving you
Something
direction.
that's right on the street or something.
Inside,
I've seen
on
it on
the campus.
the survey, and it's exposed to the streets.
I can't really understand, there are two other driveways off Clinton. And I can't really understand which one is mine and which one,
What street are you off of Clinton? You're
Brace
on.
Brace Terrace. Brace Terrace. It's the next street up from Copper. Yeah. Is that one where one of them's going to go?
Was the city turn
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're further up towards.
Right.
Oh, this has nothing to do with my turn? This has nothing to do with what's across the street, more or less, from Brace Terrace. All three of these are elsewhere, is that correct?
Yeah, all right.
Get on
The
Clinton.
D9 is around that area, right?
Right. This is the driveway that goes to City Term, to the field and to the back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those doors.
Well, I think if we
This
have
guy
a
was sitting
9
there,
square
so
foot
they must have
orientation,
done
we're
That,
gonna have to go.
that sign is the second from the left in the drawing and issue.
Then
The real issue
I
is,
might not even have one at all, because I think that, because this definitely is not the one that's this is Copper, you said.
Right.
All right, the next street up here, which isn't shown, the next street on this side, which isn't shown, is Brace Terrace. Now, I think it might conceivably, well, no, there's no
I mean, this is that entrance to the parking lot where people come out. And this is the entrance to City Term. That's where the sign is proposed.
Thank you, sir. It's not a sign.
Okay. All right. Yes, sure.
My name's John Vecchione, I live at 78 Clinton. Could you put the picture back, where the signs are? No, the other one with the actual photograph. Okay. This is the stone sign that exists today?
Yes.
Okay. So, this is going to be, okay, fine. Two things. One, when you put this sign up, are you going to discontinue using the one signs all over the driveway?
Well, that I can't answer for sure. We'll cut down the number of signs, but if we can put a flag onto it, but we'll get rid of, the signs now that that look like real estate signs.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Those will be gone, because these directional signs will be telling people where to go. Like right now, there's just a sign, a white real estate sign that says Fonseca Center, an arrow. That will go away. So that's why we're doing this, is to have some clarity to the direction of people and enhance the safety. Because people are driving by our campus, not even seeing our sign, turning around in people's driveways and stuff. We want to make it easier for people to find where we are, as well as be more aesthetically pleasing.
Okay. Number two, before I get to, I definitely oppose lighting. There is a street light right here that lights up the entire neighborhood. It is so bright. There is no reason to have lighting on that sign. If you want to go back, we have a picture, a nice picture of what the lighting that exists today on that pole. It's a utility pole. For instance, this is the road. This is Clinton. This is the road that comes in. This road forks. Goes to the right to the main school building, the left to the Forsinken Center. Okay? Just at the other side on the curb is a light pole with a really magnifying light. I don't see any reason why the sign itself. Secondly, this is a commercial section. You're making this commercial. This is a residential section. If you drive past Dobbs Ferry High School, you have the one sign which is equivalent to this sign on the stone. And that's it. There are no other signs in front of Dobbs Ferry High School. I understand why this sign may be needed, because if you're coming south, or I don't know if it's south, but if you're coming down Clinton Avenue towards Broadway, there's no way you can see the entrance to the school because you have 35 cars parked there, because you do not provide enough parking for your employees. That's one of the problems. So the color purple, why purple? Why wouldn't it blend in with the other tone of this sign that exists here?
Well, first of all, the new sign will be two-sided, so it will help the visibility, so people won't be turning around in driveways and be able to find where they're going more quickly.
I don't think it-
The other sign is just not visible if you can't see it.
Okay, but why, my question was why purple?
Well, purple is our school color since 1877, so we're kind of, that's who we
A
are.
little intrusive on this long green area of Clinton Avenue.
I think you like it because I think it's a deeper, richer purple, and it's not, just like the raised lettering, I think it will look elegant. It'll look much better than the signs you're complaining about, the freestanding short ones, the temporary ones, and the current sign is unfortunately, it's brick with a little brass flag, but it's big, it's almost impossible to see.
I think one of the other concerns that Ed has just pointed out to us is also a sort of maximum sign square footage that we have as 9 square feet that Ed just reminded us of. Both the main sign at 15 3/4 square feet and the sort of secondary, the step down at 11.5 square feet, both exceed that number. Is there? I think there might be a way to reduce the scale in some sense and address the issues. Part of the issue that Mr. Vecchio brought up.
Let me touch on that. Your sign code, and this goes back to the comment made earlier about the code kind of anticipating a building at the street. Section F number 3, in the E1 district, you can have 100 square feet, except maximum allowable gross surface area for a sign shall be 48 square feet per face, and the maximum gross surface area for a wall sign shall be 48 square feet. Later on, in its discussion specific about to projecting signs, it refers to 9 square feet, and if I were able to deconstruct what was thought there, I assume that to have been the thought that in a typical commercial storefront, you have a sign on the face of a building, and you wanted to encourage the life of the street with some projecting signs, which would typically be a small sign auxiliary to the main sign. We're in a circumstance here where there isn't a building to put the sign on, and so it has to be a freestanding sign. So my reading of that, I totally agree that there is an interpretation issue here that has to be addressed, but in the E1 district, you're allowed 48 square feet per face, and we are...
For a wall sign.
But we haven't got a wall to put it on, so that's the
You
interpretation.
do have a wall. You have a building. You have a very large building. You do.
I somewhat doubt that you would prefer a sign of 100 square feet on the building, so. Look, I understand our goal here is to try to do something that makes the place work a little better. At the moment, the cast sign that's on that small masonry plaque is nearly invisible even in daylight, and with the activity that now goes on at the school, it's our goal to make the school better identifiable, to get people to it and into the campus, off the street as soon as possible. Obviously, separate from this discussion, to navigate the campus more simply and feel like porch lights on somebody's home. And I do think, and I would say this with conviction based on similar experience in lots of other settings, that the scale of the signs we propose here, I don't think is in any way outscaled relative to the setting. And I don't think actually, we do intend to make a mock-up, but I don't think it is in any way overwhelming. Back to my primary issue, my driving goal, and the thing that in the end drives this sign size backwards into the design is the required letter height. So I have a 6-inch letter height on the master school piece. 6 inches is, for example, at the moment, the manual and uniform traffic control device requirement for street signs. It's often achieved on street signs by massively compressing the type and creating a thoroughly horrifying typographic result. But it's just not realistic from the standpoint of visibility and vehicular safety to be rendering these messages at substantially smaller sizes than they should.
I agree with you about the value of sort of proper signage. And I think that I would, I'd really like to think about this for one more hearing. I do realize there is some interpretation required here, which I have not thought through, and I would also like to consider this in the scheme of other signs in the village, similar for similar properties. So unless you have something else to add,
Could I please, just one more time?
Yes, briefly, please.
I thank you for your indulgence. I was taken aback by this. I was aware that the signage was coming up. because
Take the microphone, please.
I was aware that the signage issue was coming up, but I didn't expect it tonight. I knew it was coming up, but I didn't expect it tonight. And that's nobody's fault about it. But yeah, I didn't want to make it sound like all I care about is what is right next to my house, because as I'm thinking about this more, now that I've had time to understand the size of the signs, I think it's out of keeping with the neighborhood. I think they're just way too big. And I do urge you to go and take a look. I mean, these do seem to me like something that belongs in a retail neighborhood.
That's why I have
Yeah.
proposed that we think about this a little more and go
Thank you
be a
very
little
much.
bit more rigorous about our assessment of it, because I too was not prepared for some of the questions that have come up. So
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So, happy to
So-
provide any further information in the interim that would be useful to you.
if we have any questions, I will contact Ed and he can get in touch with you. Otherwise,
Sure.
I think we just need to think through what you have proposed, which is a very attractive sign, but has two interpretive questions for us that I.
Understood.
I think there are things in the building department maybe that I could come there and
You
look
can
at
always
and
see the
vote on.
applications at the building department.
Yeah.
So I will make a motion that we continue this to the next.
Second.
Bill seconds, unanimous. Thank you for your patience. We'll get back to you at the next 2 weeks. 548 Broadway.
Thank you.
I called and we did.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Zappy of Zappy Co Construction. I'm here with my brother Brian and my father Jim on behalf of two of our applicants on 548 Broadway. We're looking to build two houses right on the, right just north of the intersection of McClellan and Broadway. What can I tell you about it? We're going in there, we're proposing. We're proposing a common driveway, which we've already been in touch with the DOT to obtain the curb cut permits, which we have. Both houses will be sharing this driveway, and the third house will be accessed off McClellan Road.
These are the sample selections that were picked out for each of the houses.
So you are here as a pre-submission Is that right? And by that, what I mean is that we won't be approving anything tonight. You are subject to planning board approval that is on this coming Wednesday's agenda or the following?
I believe Thursday.
Thursday, rather.
Yeah, so it's our understanding that this is a pre-submission conference. We're just looking to gather any constructive input that we can help speed along the process.
Okay, yeah, let's, I see some, I mean, my primary concern with doing this sort of thing is that what you ultimately end up doing is turning the back of the house onto the street in some respect, right? And it's partly, well, not partly, it's entirely a function of the subdividing 2 lots into 3. And so what you end up with is not quite enough to do a front of a house on Broadway. And so I just want you to be as cognizant as you can about making this portion of the house that faces Broadway, that people are going to see as your kind of face to the community, as appearing like the front of a house, and not treating it like the back of the house. So that's my first issue. I also, secondly, I see some variation in the material. So if I look at, I'm just going to pick one. This is front and left of lot 3. This is your front elevation, which in some ways is kind of a side elevation, right? It's the front of the house, but the side for the rest of us who are just driving by. And I see some variation. We have some material here, something here, a third material here. Can you go through and explain what these various things are?
Sure. Would it be easier to show you on this?
Yeah, please. Yeah, or, I mean, if you have a presentation, by all means, go through it. You may save some questions from us.
All right, so I forgot to introduce ourselves. Basically, we build houses all over Westchester. This is our first foray into Dobbs Ferry. However, we've probably put up a couple hundred around Westchester. How do we get to this? Okay. So, to answer your question, we use typically vinyl siding, as we have proposed here. It's a heavy weight, not the cheap, vinyl that has had a bad connotation throughout the years. So we'll go through from the front. This is vinyl shake made by Allside. This is traditional vinyl siding, 4-inch. This will be white vinyl trim.
I think it's just a band vinyl.
Band vinyl.
But he had picked out 3. I don't remember 3. I think it could have been just a computer printout.
Yeah, what's the material that I see below the dormer? Like, what is it? The different hatch. You see, there's a different hatch on the dormer than there is on the area above the vinyl right below the dormer.
Yeah,
Yes.
this here, the dormers in the first top section is like a cedar shake.
Okay.
Right? And then this is, the rest of it is a vinyl lap siding. And then this is just like a band, vinyl band, and then it goes back to the vinyl lap. I looked at your drawing and it showed like a third one in there. I think that was just the printer. It was just an error on the printer.
What do you think about this?
Not to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only you've got the shake, the vinyl.
Here's my suggestion. Since you're pre-submission, you have some time to look at this and think this through. I think some consistency is a strong thing. I think the two different types of vinyl, the one that's the cedar and the one that's the plank type, I think it's too much. I don't think the house is really big enough to warrant so many different things going on. I would keep that consistent all the way, and it's not really clear what's going on here, but.
All right, so now you're talking about for the face, not the dormers?
The face,
I'm
yes.
talking about for the face. I think if you want to do something on the dormer, you could. That seems to be a somewhat different element, although, you know,
Okay.
think about it as a whole composition. The other
So I
thing,
understand that right before you go on, during about keep the lap siding all the way.
I would carry right up to the right up to the ridge, right up to the eave. Then the other thing I see is the trim piece you have at the corner. It's
The corner boards.
Yeah, the corner board, this is kind of a skimpy piece relative to this big wide band here, so I would do one of two things, or maybe both of them, increase this a little bit, maybe decrease this, maybe give yourself a little relief here, so that there's actually something,
We'll give you like a 10-inch corner board.
you know, whatever,
Okay.
I mean, one of you guys are designing this thing, and one of you guys, I mean.
Well, we're all engineers.
We're all engineers, okay, so good, so,
We'll take care of it.
yeah, look at it in a way that makes sense for the house, and, come back to this, again, the same, with this corner piece, this piece should come all the way down, right, let it come all the way down. Or we have, this is a little cut in, is that what I'm saying? Okay, so then that no longer makes sense. Actually, I asked these questions and I saw your spec book, so I have answers to these.
Typically what happens is that when you do this detail, it's either at a window and then the silk continues sort of all around so that it has a rationale for where it breaks. It's a very nice detail. I like the idea of what you're trying to do. It's more an arts and crafts style detail, but it's done a little differently, maybe on, something else might work better.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to keep the
But
vinyl
I
wrap
think
up.
that the idea of definitely making the corner boards a little more neatly.
Yeah.
Do you think you can add on some more glass to the front elevation, to the front door? I mean, to this door?
The front door, it just seems really bland for a very big piece of the house. It seems to be about 10 feet long.
Yeah.
And there's something blank about that entry point.
Yeah, if you could do something a little more dramatic.
Because the other windows are very, the windows with the shutters
Right.
are pretty broad.
Sometimes in our houses, we put oval windows on either side of the front door.
Okay.
I wouldn't suggest that, I'm not suggesting that, but maybe it just gets embellished a little bit. I think you have a nice sort of, you have this sort of line that defines the entryway, and maybe there's just something that gets elaborated here with, I don't know, door gets taller, wider.
Yeah.
You add in some.
We can do that. I'm more concerned with what you're talking about on the side. You're calling it the back of the house.
Well, I guess this is right. This is what I see from Broadway.
This is facing Broadway.
Yeah.
I'll show you the site plan, it's pretty cool what they're doing here. I'll put the site plan.
The grade slopes quite a bit, right, from back to front?
No.
No? I thought that's why you're doing it this way.
So what we have here is the house, that's good. The house that you have is this one here. And what we did was, I had purchased these 3 lots when we had sold 2 of the 3. And what we did was we put an ingress egress easement. This is a New York State road. So what we did was we applied to New York State, we heard all their comments, we actually have a permit in hand to construct this, so we're good. So one of the reasons why we did it is, New York State looks for common driveways in situations like this, so they have half as many driveways coming out on the road, on the street. So what we're doing is we're berming up between the driveway and the street. So if you can see from these contour lines, it'll be burned. And I think, do we have something to show from the? So we've got one little entry driveway that comes in. This whole berm on either side is screened to prohibit seeing actually the houses. You have to really look to see it. So this being Broadway, this being the entrance, we're kind of trying to hide the garages. And that was the intent of, kind of doing this, and it was in along the lines of what New York State DOT likes to see. This one here, I think we're also discussing tonight, has a little bit more detail, and after hearing what you said, this has the difference of the 2 types of siding with the shake. This is a shake piece, and this is the lap siding. And then also how we're treating the houses, brick, and this would be stone.
So this is the one, you can see here. I guess here is fine.
Oh, this, because he's breaking up the corner.
Yeah, you know, I would just,
This is fine.
yeah, I would say on the house that's, I guess to the south.
Yes.
I have a different opinion. I don't feel like it's the same problem. I feel like this, because of the planar relationship, it works fine.
Okay.
It was just the application on the other house where, above, where below the seas. Here I think it makes sense. And I think if you're treating this with brick, the two materials on this side and the stone and I think we have the right components in place to.
We didn't want it to
Have
look
a-
cookie cutter.
Right.
We're not modular builders. Everything is stick built, so we try and incorporate some nice relief into each house, especially when they're right next to each other.
Yeah, no, this one was working. This is working well. So I think this cedar style shingle here makes a lot of sense on this other
You
house.
can go on our website, you can see the different treatments, how we do it. Breaks it up a little bit.
Okay. You guys have any other suggestions for?
But,
Yeah, I think take into consideration some of these comments, and we'll see you with the.
Yeah, my only concern is, the first house we discussed, I don't want it to look plain. This cost us more money to do.
This,
Adding the.
this element.
Yes, that element. Maybe we can do like we can.
If this were my house, I would put my money in the entrance. Why don't you do something really fantastic in the center portion? You eliminate this stuff here, and you have you spend it here, spend it on the end.
try that.
On the end, to do something like a window or an opening on this end, because you have so much detail you see
I
on
know,
the other
I know,
house.
right.
And this one's sort of really bland compared to that, so that could
Would it be okay we'll extend a little roof and we'll put the shake up in the gable and maybe with an oval window? I don't want it to look too plain.
Right.
I'm okay
Pull
with
this
that.
out.
Yeah, sure,
Right.
show some, yeah.
You wanna
Yeah.
run a band across the gable, so you stuff it on that, and then you choose that?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and put the white door.
Yeah, and it could be
Just like
round,
the door.
it could be round,
No
so
problem.
like, it doesn't have to be a half, it could be something that's, just more unique for that house.
Yeah.
What we do, we'll put the old quarter windows in.
That's fine,
Put the quarter windows in, how's that?
you're not wrong.
Because we're just starting here in Dobbs Ferry, we want to do the right job. You may see us again.
Yeah, good. Well, if the house is good, then it's easy. Then you're in and out in one night.
All right, so what's the procedure now?
So there's no motion to be made. You go to planning, you get your approval, and you submit a full application, to Ed, and you'll get it to us, come back to us. We'll look at this with the changes you made, and, then build a house, too.
I didn't want to see anything on the previous application. Like, purple, the prince, in honor of his death. They could have got the approval.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
No motion required tonight. Ed, I think we had, you wanna take your board?
Yeah.
Continue 51.
Yeah, I was gonna see if they showed up. Motion to continue 51 Belton's the next hearing. 50 seconds, unanimous.
Unanimous.
I didn't receive minutes. I'll make a motion, we continue the minutes to the next application. Anyone? Dale, seconds, 50 seconds rather. Unanimous. And motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
Dale seconds, unanimous, meeting adjourned.